Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Heroes Forge. Today, I've got Zafer with me, and we're going to go ahead and talk about how to discipline one's spouse and how to deal with conflict in a marriage. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, people. Hello, Mike. Thank you for having me here, by the way. And my name is Zafer. I'm Turkish. I live in Brazil for around, it is about to be 4 years. I have my own YouTube channel, which is all in Turkish. And I talk about red pill stuff. And I met Mike through Twitter. I saw Paul Elam sharing him with a bunch of other accounts, and I basically followed everybody that he suggested, and Mike followed me back, and that's how our, let's just say, friendship has started, and now we're here.
Sounds good, man. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. The first, you wanted to go ahead and talk about GIF, or who did you want to talk about first?
Well, we have so much stuff to discuss, right? So I don't even know where to start. I guess we can
start with GIF.
Let's start with GIF
Okay.
and his famous ketchup story.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. Should we share it on the screen, or should I just talk about it? How should we do it?
Is this your... Well, I'm looking at our DMs, and I don't have the one you're specifically talking about, so I'll let you share the screen, and then you can go ahead and bring it up.
All right. I have it here.
Sounds good.
Share screen. Here.
I'll add it to the stage. Great.
This is GIF Lasta. I don't think the people who are watching this don't know him, and he shared this as a way of holding women accountable. And this story, according to him, is a way of holding women accountable. And
okay.
The story basically goes in a way. Should I just read it instead of?
How about I'll just read it, because I'm.
Yeah, please.
Since it's my primary language. All right. So This is GIF Lasta and how men hold women accountable. He says that my client's wife would scream at him for little things. One time when they were sleeping apart, she made up his guest bed with extra sheets and pillows, and he let her know that wasn't needed. That led to an hour-long tirade about how unappreciative he is. Apologizing just made her yell all the louder. Emotionally, he'd ping-pong from feeling like he deserved it to being angry at the unfairness of it. In my coaching, that's GIFs, I introduced him to the concept of frame. If a man has his own secure standards for himself, her angry words aren't any threat. He lives in his own emotional frame and only takes on board opinions he himself is convinced of. Paradoxically, this confident internal frame frees him up to listen without judgment to someone else's concerns. Now, I don't think you and I have argument about that piece yet.
I kind of do, Mike.
Well, we'll go ahead and go through the rest, but I don't think I have too much argument for that. Can you scroll down a little bit more?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It took months of coaching. Okay, up.
Sorry.
There you go. It took months of coaching, but one evening it clicked. As she screamed at him for not remembering the ketchup when he went to the grocery store, he didn't get upset or apologetic. He said, "Oh, well, I missed it. We'll have to go and do without till I get the chance to go again. If you need it tonight, feel free to run to the store yourself." She stopped in her tracks, her husband casually standing up to her like this is no big deal, made her feel like it was no big deal. Eventually, she felt safer around him, the more and more attracted to him. He had spent years feeling powerless, a victim to his wife's bad behavior, but all it took was a little spine in the midst of a storm, and she relaxed into him. I think about this often when I hear about guys talking about holding women accountable. With some of them, I would sense an air of nostalgia for the past. They would presume a husband could smack his wife with impunity if she got out of line. But women have always responded with more than just defensiveness against potential abuse. They feel contempt for such men. If he has to resort to force, that means he commands no respect without the threat of force. No men have always held women accountable through frame. Okay, I'll disagree with him there. Every post I make about women has a chorus of "just leave her, bro" from the peanut gallery, and some non-religious guys don't think it's possible to hold frame without threatening divorce. This lacks imagination. You don't have to tear apart your family to set boundaries. You just have to have higher standards for yourself than she does. If you are taking the family somewhere great, then she faces the real threat of getting left behind if she stubbornly opposes your every move. That's interesting, because if he's saying she gets left behind and he's saying not divorce, then he's implying separation probably. Okay, a woman wants to be inspired by her man and excited to come alongside him. You've got all these biological forces of primal motivation on your side. You just need to take up the tools already at your disposal. Hold her accountable, punish her, my brothers. If you know how to lead your family, such thoughts will be far from your mind. She'll already care what you think, respect you, and check herself if she anticipates being out of sync. She'll be so keyed into the family's mission that she'll anticipate what's needed and use her own initiative to strengthen the bond. Men guide women through frame and attention. We'll leave whining and browbeating to the boys. Okay, some of this is good and some of this isn't. So what is your primary contention with it?
Oh, I have so much. I don't know where to start. That like the whole framing is wrong. I have. It's like I think GIF defines frame completely different than how it's traditionally defined. How it's defined in the red pill sphere.
Okay, are you aware that the red pill sphere is not the origination of the term?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, cool.
I know,
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's a psychological term.
Yes, it's primarily a psychological term.
Yeah, but at least in my observation, as someone who has been reading red pill a lot, at least in the sense that how the red pill praxeology defines frame, this isn't it.
Okay, define it.
Well, the thing is, these animals, I don't know how what their name is in English. They basically have a very long neck, and they
You talking about a giraffe?
under the sand. No.
Oh,
these are birds.
Ostrich.
Yeah. You basically, those animals, when they are afraid, when they are sensing a threat, they are putting their heads under the sand and waiting to be calmed down and waiting for the threat to pass. Well, what GIF is offering here, it seems to me basically the same thing with the same dynamics. She disrespects you and you ignore it. You pretend like it's not a big deal. You pretend like it doesn't hurt you. You pretend like it doesn't show any anger at you, but it does. Why do you need to lie to yourself? It does. It's your wife yelling at you over ketchup. The very fact that she does this is already showing that you are not holding the frame. So there's no need of pretending that you are.
But Zafer, in this situation, he didn't have the frame to begin with, and he is establishing frame anew. So that's, I think, a distinction that you need to draw here.
But how does he establish frame by ignoring what she did?
You don't have to respond emotionally to what she does when she's emotional. Here's
Why
the thing.
Do we have to...
Hold on. I'm still explaining my piece.
Sorry.
All right. No, you're good. When she is out of line and he has not been holding frame, he has a responsibility to reestablish frame. And in the situation that he provided, when she yelled at him over the ketchup, he didn't yell at her back. He said, look, it happened. I'm not going to go out and get it right now. You could go out and get it if you want. That's a perfectly reasonable response. That is, you're holding yourself in high regard. Now, you could go ahead and go above and beyond and say something like, I'm not going to tolerate disrespect. But I don't think you have to say that because the subtext is there. Because that you are demonstrating, not explicating in that case, which is another red pill maxim that you, I'm sure, are well aware of.
Yeah, but how does he exactly... how did he exactly not tolerated the disrespect? Because it seems to me when I look at the situation, this is exactly what tolerating disrespect looks like.
So how would you do it differently?
Well, I don't think in my marriage it would go to this way, because I would respond into things that is even that if before things even get to that, I would respond in a way that is hard.
You're
Like,
adding, the thing is, you're adding to the circumstance. You're not expressing
Oh.
exactly what you would do in that circumstance.
Okay.
If your marriage was not already on the up and up, right? You have to put yourself in the hypothetical situation of
All
you
right.
don't already have a perfect marriage, because clearly this guy didn't, right?
all right.
So from that point of view, what would you be doing otherwise?
Well, I would be silent. I wouldn't say anything,
Oh, okay.
and
So-
I would go and deal with my things.
So how would that be addressing the disrespect?
Well, by making myself out of her attention, I am ignoring, and I'm not initiating any conversation. I am putting my presence out of the situation,
Mhm.
and that shows a clear consequence, right? It's something that I do. It's I didn't talk, because talking, responding, would mean to what's that word? To
So let me see if I understand you. So you're saying that you would withdraw your attention.
to approve, to confirm.
No, you would withdraw your attention from her. You'd not, you wouldn't attend to it because you would be leaving, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think that you can handle it both ways and it still be okay. I think the thing is, like, there are a lot of tools available in a man's toolbox, and not every tool is the same for every situation. And I think that the way that this gentleman, who's just now reestablishing frame, that's probably a good starting step for him, is to go ahead and say, hey, I'm not going to go ahead and do that until my next trip. I'm not going to make a special trip for it. If you need it that badly, you can go do it. Right? Because the thing is, you're not approving of the anger. You're not responding with anger, because that just goes ahead and gets things spiraling out of control. And then you could withdraw your attention from there. But the thing is, you're setting a line in the sand in that case. So I think that both approaches can work.
Well, I think the biggest difference is by completely ignoring her, I am showing her with my behavior that what she's doing is not right. But responding to her is not exactly doing the same thing. So I think there's a fundamental difference in there.
Sure, but you're assuming the power to go ahead and withdraw indefinitely.
Not indefinitely, but in a way that is clear, that she sees and understands.
So if you never talk about it and she gets mad at you again, you just walk away again, right?
Well, there's going to be a talk, of course, but not in
But
that
why?
immediate
Why would there
moment.
be a talk? Why would there be a
Because
talk?
she's going to talk. Yeah.
Well, I
She's going to talk, man.
Of course. And then when she talks, she's going to go ahead and get heated because you're not changing the pattern of behavior other than you withdrawing your attention. Right?
Well, then what I would do is this.
Now, remember to frame yourself in his position, right? Not a position of already having a perfect marriage.
I don't think I have a perfect marriage.
Right. Well, the thing is, you understand what I'm saying, though, right? Is you already
Yes.
have your marriage more or less like in key, just like I more or less have my marriage in key. So this is not a problem that either of us are dealing with right now in our marriages. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys that are dealing with this, which is why he's writing the post to begin with, right?
Yes, but I think these kind of first we want to fix this, right? And to be able to fix it, we have to identify the problem to its core. I think
Sure.
the main thing that we must do is to understand the core of the problem, and that's oftentimes, in my opinion, is the mentality of the guy. And we need to understand that before doing anything, because if we don't change our mentality, if we don't understand the core of the problem, whatever it is that we are doing is just delaying the situation. And I
Okay.
think Lasta's approach here, I'm not saying that it's going to be completely wrong. I mean, it works in a way that it calms the storm. Yeah, okay. She calms down. Maybe she apologizes. but she's going to do that again.
Yeah, see, that's interesting, because I would say that the same thing could happen in your circumstance as well, where you just walk away.
Yeah, but when
So the thing is, there are different tools that could lead to the same outcome, right? The idea is you wait for things to calm down. In your case, by reapproaching after, you've given her some space, or you've given yourself some space by taking yourself out of the equation. Now, you don't have children yet, right?
No,
Okay.
but I want to.
So the situation changes a little bit when you have children too. Because if you go ahead and just withdraw yourself and you have 4 children, now you've got 4 children that are under the care of this emotionally volatile woman.
Volatile. What does volatile mean?
It means that she is explosive. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
What explosive
I just want to make sure
but-
that when there's a language barrier, I want to make sure that we're on the same sheet of music.
Yeah. Why she's explosive though? Isn't she an adult?
But in the circumstance that's provided, that's just what it is. I'm not providing moral judgment about why, but I'm saying is, if you look at the different solutions to that problem, there are solutions that make more sense given the situation than others, right? Because if you withdraw yourself and you have 4 children that are under her care, and she's already an emotional raging mess, the children are going to bear some of that consequence.
Yeah, but there's no way of shielding them forever, right?
Right, but the thing is, in that circumstance, are you shielding them more or less by withdrawing?
Well, I have to admit that the way that I respond, the way that I sent you an article that I wrote about something that I have experienced, and it's basically what I did. But I have to admit that the way that I handled that situation is because there's a factor that I have I don't have a kid yet. Yeah, I agree. This gives me a bit more freedom in the way that I operate.
There are tons more freedoms when you don't have children involved and other elevated levels of responsibility.
And I don't defend the idea that you have to withdraw yourself every time, or this is the only thing that you should do, or basically going away. But there could be other ways of handling the situation, and it's difficult for me to give a prescription for every single situation, because you have to evaluate your situation, your dynamics. So it's really hard for me to
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you just said. And it's for that reason that I don't judge this situation and the prescription provided that harshly, because it isn't a prescription that he provided. It is a retelling of the story as it was. So it's not like he's telling him, these are the things. He's telling his client told GIF, this is what happened and this was the result. Do you see where that's a little bit different?
Yeah.
And so I don't judge that situation that harshly, but I see your perspective that you say, that seems like you're not addressing the root cause. But in a way you are, because you're drawing a line in the sand. Now, yours is also not addressing the root cause. You are drawing a line in the sand. The effect of it is the same, and you still have to go back and actually address root causes, regardless of what path you choose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's just the fundamental thing, is during the storm, arguing with her is not going to solve the problem. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes.
Because she's not in a headspace to actually think clearly.
Yes.
And if we're honest, most guys are also not in a space to be thinking clearly when they're being yelled at and approached like this. Because most guys don't have that unassailable frame that takes years and years of experience to come up with.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think this is the thing. The way that I handle the situation, or the way that I would handle situations like this, not exactly withdrawing my presence from there, but maybe other forms of things that I would do as well.
Sure. So maybe go through that.
The things that I would do usually would be labeled as being reactive. And husbands being reactive is usually labeled as a bad thing. This is where we are coming, because the main difference is that my approach is a little bit more reactive than Lester's. I am
Sure.
showing my emotions. I am showing the way that I feel. I am showing my disappointments. I'm showing my anger. I am doing it in a controlled manner. I'm not yelling at her. I'm not trying to hit her, but I don't hide it. I don't try to force myself into a calmness that I don't actually feel. I acknowledge how I'm feeling, and I'm clearly showing it. She knows it in my face, in my behavior, but I don't also led by it. I'm not led by it, but I live it.
Mhm.
And there's a bit of reactiveness in that. I think that's necessary. Being reactive, I don't think that it's inherently a bad thing, and it's often essential. And labeling it as a flaw, which is a lot of oftentimes that's what happens. Labeling it as a flaw can result as you suppressing your instincts. And I think that's more of a fundamental problem, a bigger problem. And I think this is the real problem why guys are being disrespected in the first place. What's not normal is being instinctive, shutting your brain off, and let your emotions take over you. That's not normal. But being reactive doesn't necessarily have to be that way. The alternative
Right.
of that
But
should
do you
not
do,
be.
but do you do that in the moment is the question.
Yeah,
Okay. See, now, how long have you been married now?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So can you give an example from your marriage as to how you would express that reactivity? Because most men have a hard time expressing reactivity with boundaries in terms of
Well,
like, they're not yelling, they're not going to go ahead and escalate.
Yes. What I would do when I start feeling in a particular manner, I don't try to hide it, I don't try to suppress it, and I immediately show it. I don't, because I think suppressing it would result as resentment, and that's something that shouldn't be done. So I live it. I'm being true to myself by living it. But for example, she makes me angry. I look at her eyes directly in a serious face. She understands, and that's it. Sometimes even that's enough.
Now, do you
And
think that that's contextual?
yeah,
Okay, so I'm under the impression that your wife is a little bit more submissive than the average Western woman.
well,
I mean,
I'm not so
if we're-
sure about that.
Oh,
Because
is she a firecracker? Okay, but you understand that the context of most men are operating in, the women are not particularly submissive until the guy becomes the proper dominant leader.
I would disagree with that by saying
Cool.
that
Go for it.
submission is a choice where even if you are the perfect leader, she could still choose not to submit you. And that's
You're
only
absolutely
her
right.
problem.
Sure.
So,
But the
Please.
point that I'm getting at is most of them are not choosing submission.
yes,
That's what I'm getting at.
yes,
And
they
so
don't.
the
And
glance.
I would like to add to that
Go
is
for
that even if the guy is a perfect leader, they may still not want to choose to submit.
Sure, and I would think that that's a thing that you should vet for when you're dating or when you're before you
But
get married.
circumstances can change as well.
Sure.
Before you marry her, she may look like she's the perfect representation of being a godly woman, but throughout the marriage, she can decide simply not to be that kind of woman anymore.
Sure. Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, it's her choice regardless. And when you give her that disapproving glance, depending on her character and her emotional state, that can either go really well or really poorly.
I
Right,
think
because
if you, I am
think
sorry.
that I think the big thing is just to know who your wife is and how she operates. Because not every wife will go ahead and respond the same way. I'll give you an example. So
Please.
the reason why I typically choose stoicism is not because I'm trying to repress my instincts or anything like that. It's because over 21 years of marriage, I know what works and what doesn't for my family and for my life, right? And so I know that if I go ahead and express disapproval beyond a certain point, like I can go ahead and do the little glance and most of the time she'll change her behavior, right? But if she's in her feelings already, that glance is only going to escalate matters. So it serves me no purpose in that circumstance to employ that tool. And I think this is what a lot of guys get wrong is they don't realize that a lot of these prescriptions are not like, hey, every problem is a nail, so we just use this hammer to hammer the nails.
My main argument against what you said, Mike, would be that sometimes, without realizing, us men, we are enabling behaviors to women that aren't exactly adult kinds of behaviors.
Sure, but
We
what in that is
think that,
enabling?
well, for example, what you said that sometimes she's on her feelings, that result her to act like crazy. But is this really an adult behavior?
It
Should
isn't,
because
but that's not the
because
moment to
when we
address
look
it.
at, yeah, sure, but the thing
Mhm.
is, us men sometimes we think that a woman is because she is a woman, because she
Yeah.
has her feelings as a woman, her
Mhm.
nature as a woman, her hormones as a woman. She has her monthly time as a woman. We think that because of that, she deserves a special treatment. That we should behave her a bit differently because she's a woman. We should be
Yeah, I
more
disagree
patient.
with that. Yeah,
So this
I
is
think
what
you
it
and I
comes down to, I think.
I think you and I are on the same page of this, right? Because I don't go
Yeah.
ahead and treat her differently because she's a woman, right? I treat her differently because she's my wife and I know her. It's not about a blanket thing about her being woman. It's a blanket thing of I have 21 years of experience and we have a great marriage because I do certain things and because it works out better for me that way. Because I've tried to do it the other way and it didn't work for me.
How it didn't work? Can you give an example?
Sure. So early on in our marriage, when she would get mad, I would go ahead and loudly express disapproval to her. And that would only make her madder.
Yeah.
And it would escalate. It's really easy, a real easy input thing where she takes whatever I give her and reflects it back to me twice as big
But
in
can
her
I
emotional
ask?
state.
I see. Can I ask that maybe the problem of those times is not really that you expressed your disapproval, but the way that you expressed it was the problem?
No, I mean, maybe, but the thing is, it's just a matter of degree. You're making an argument of degree, not an argument of statement of fact. So can you go ahead and
Yeah.
explore your side a little bit more on that one?
Well, she did something to anger you, right? And then you start, in your words, being loudly disapproving what you said.
No, I said disapproval regardless of how loud.
Yeah. So you told,
Regardless of how loud.
okay.
So I took that out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the louder it was, the worse it was.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think we should be controlled. We
Yeah.
shouldn't go rage. But
Yeah, rage
I also,
rage does not help us almost in any circumstance unless
Yes.
there's like bodily harm or life at risk. I think those
Yes.
are things where it makes sense to go ahead and be really domineering for the sake of protecting the family.
Yes. But what I'm often observing is some guys are really afraid of doing that in a way that they go completely opposite of the equation.
Yeah, I agree with
You know
you.
what I mean?
I think that most
Like
of the
there's a
time,
healthy
like,
balance. Would
I
you
agree.
with that?
So, absolutely. And the thing is, I think that the church goes ahead and teaches men the wrong way to resolve these conflicts. And they teach men to go ahead and be servant leaders by serving her feelings more than anything else. And I think you and I agree on that. But the thing is, there's just things that work and things that don't work as much. So,
Yeah.
and I think that you can express disapproval up to a point, and depending on the nature of the problem at hand, that could go ahead and work for certain circumstances. But if she's already in her feelings, you expressing disapproval in the moment will not make things better.
Okay, but would you agree with that after she calms down? It's essential to point
Yes.
out that what she,
But those are
the way
different.
that she goes crazy is not
Yeah.
acceptable at all.
Of course, but those are completely different circumstances,
Yeah,
right? And you would agree that her being enraged and her being calm are different circumstances, right?
yes, definitely.
Right? And so we use different tools for different circumstances.
Train a dog like you. No,
Well, no,
man. What the?
No,
Get out of here.
No, he's pretty much right. You go ahead and give good reinforcement for good behavior, and you get negative reinforcement for negative behavior. I don't think you disagree with that. He's just putting it bluntly.
Yeah, but the making I don't know, using the word dog, I think it's not really cool. But okay,
Sure,
I get.
I understand why, but the thing is, he's being really blunt, right? He's talking about operant conditioning is what he's getting at without so many fancy words.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we can go ahead and like look at the way he said the thing, but it doesn't change what he's saying. And I agree with him. I think that in a lot of ways that you are training other people, and your wife included in this, how to treat you. And the way that you respond and the way that you give her guidance really helps to dial this in, especially in those times where there was a deviation from standards, and now you get to be calm and you get to talk to her about that. And then you get to either reward good behavior or provide consequences for substandard behavior.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that that's really important to know, but a lot of guys are uncomfortable with the idea of giving consequences.
Yes, they are. They are very much.
Yeah, like I'll give you an example.
Would you agree that
early.
it's something that a man must do?
Yeah,
Giving
absolutely.
consequences?
Well, I
Okay.
think that it's something that's essential for a leader to do. If you look at any leader-subordinate relationship, there is a holding of standards, and if standards aren't enforced, there is no leadership.
Yes.
Like, I
How
think you and I are on
would
the
you-
same page on that one. So I'll give you an
Exactly.
example.
Please.
So first year of marriage, my wife got mad at me about something, and she left the house, and the next day was my payday, and she took all the money out of the checking account.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that day I opened up a new bank account. I borrowed $200 from a good friend of mine, put it in the bank account, and then changed my direct deposit to go into that bank account. I still have that bank account, and all of my money goes into that bank account to this day, 21 years later.
Wow.
So the consequence was before we would have joint access to the money and there would be no issues.
Yeah.
We would have agreed upon expenses. She went against that standard. So I established a new standard, and 21 years later, she is still reaping the consequences of that behavior.
That is very good.
So
Wow.
that's an example
I'm
of
impressed.
providing consequences, right? And it's just a fact of life kind of thing.
Yes.
So like some people nowadays would call that emotional abuse. I still provide her everything that I'm required to provide her. I provide her food,
Yeah.
shelter, and conjugal rights. That's what I provide her, in addition to a bunch of other stuff, because now I'm wealthy and we can go ahead and do a lot of things, right? But the thing is, while we were growing up and while we were developing as a family, I took charge of our finances so that we could have the margin to invest in things later on.
Yeah.
And if I did not take command of the finances, we would not have what we have today.
Yeah.
So I believe in consequences. It's just a matter of what is the circumstance at hand and what is a proportional response to that.
100% agree with you.
Right? So I don't think we're
Yeah.
that far off on this.
I also don't think we are very far off from anything. In fact, we have so many agreements, and then that makes the disagreements very little and even unimportant.
So let's go ahead and keep going through this. What else do you have beef with him about? Because there are places that I have beef with him in this thing, but I'm curious about your perspective.
Well, I think my main beef, I have said it. And another thing that I would say, but we already briefly discussed, is that trying to force a form of calmness into yourself when you shouldn't.
Why do you think that's wrong?
Well, because
you're using the word shouldn't, because the word shouldn't implies an ought. So why ought
Yes.
we not do that?
Well, because of what we have spoken earlier about being reactive. Calmness negates you being reactive. Calmness makes you passive. And
I disagree, but go on.
it's like you feel something And when your wife disrespects you, you feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't let your feeling, that feeling to lead you, to take over you, but you should kind of hold on to that, because it tells you a very important thing, a truth within yourself. And I think calmness, the way that it's used, or in practicality, how it turns into, suppresses that feeling. And I think that's very bad. You need to know why you're angry. And you need to use that anger, forge it into something useful, and something that will change your circumstances. Maybe put necessary boundaries that you need to do. And the thing is, oftentimes there is a hidden fear of guys. They are afraid that if they start to do what's necessary, their marriage is going to end. And maybe that's precisely what's going to happen. But the alternative of that is what? Living in constant hell?
Okay, let's go ahead and take this line by piece. You got 3 things that you put out there. All right.
Yes.
So the first thing, I do not think that calming yourself down is mutually exclusive with feeling an emotion. I think that you can go ahead and be enraged and then make conscious effort to reduce the effect of that rage and look and think clearly about why you're enraged. I think that part is true. But the thing is, I think that calmness is not necessarily the same thing as passivity. I think that calmness is an intentional effort to get yourself into a state of mind where you can more clearly think of and articulate your thoughts about a thing. Because I find that when I am feeling rage, I am less articulate, I am less clear-thoughted than I would be if I were calm and still feeling the anger. Those are 2 different things. Now, the next thing that you brought up, the idea of your feelings are telling you truth. I actually really agree with that, because I find, I talk about this about jealousy. So you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. We know that our God is a jealous God, right? Yeah. What does the word jealous mean? For you to be jealous means that you desire something that is yours. That is different from envy. Envy is to desire that which does not belong to you. Yeah. So jealousy, when we feel this in regard to our relationships, jealousy tells us that there is a boundary that has been crossed that we did not know existed yet, or that we haven't articulated clearly. Most of the time, that's the case, right? When you feel jealous, some line has been crossed. And so a lot of times we need to take the time to think, just like you were saying, think about what was that line that was crossed and how do I articulate it so that I can set a standard in the relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that where you're at is very close to where I'm at. It's just that I think that if I embrace the feeling too much for my personal circumstances, that doesn't work well for me.
I agree.
Right? But that may work really well for you. I don't know your emotional state and how that works when you're in the moment.
Yeah. But the thing is, us guys, we are men. We have a different brain. We have a different hormonal system.
Sure.
We are, and the society that we live in today is not pro-men. It teaches us and conditions us to be like a woman, to feel like a woman, to act like a woman, to talk like a woman, to think like a woman, and suppress everything that comes from us being men.
Well, hold on. I agree to a point. So when you say suppress, what specifically are you believing that they have you suppress?
Well,
we might get somewhere.
That's what I was coming down. That's what I was coming down to. Us guys, our endocrinological system is that we feel anger in a way that women can never experience. because we have testosterone that is 17, 18 times more than women. That makes us feel certain emotions that they are not capable of feeling. And anger is one of them. But anger is a very dangerous feeling. Sometimes anger, if not unchecked, it's like fire. How is fire? You use it, it's the beginning of society, right? Because of fire, we have all the civilization. But unchecked fire can create, can destroy things.
Yep.
Destruction, exactly. So, but I think the feminized society decided to follow the way of basically get rid of that danger instead of teaching men to control it. So
yeah, I disagree. I think that because men and women, I don't think that they don't feel the same emotions. I just think that it is expressed differently. So for men, we have the power of force. If you and I are face to face and we get into a disagreement that gets heated enough, we might go to blows. That's not usually a thing that happens between women. So force is our primary domain of power and destruction, whereas women's primary form of power and destruction is soft power. They go ahead and do reputation destruction, insults, guilting, shame, things of that nature. So they can be extremely angry, but because they lack physicality to embrace force like we do, they express anger differently.
I agree with that. I agree. I didn't mean to say that women can't be extremely angry. I mean to say that they can't be angry near enough that a man can.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's the case. Like, that's a thing that's difficult to measure.
Yeah, I guess, but it's just
like how would you measure it?
Well, we know what testosterone serves, what it makes, what it creates in somebody, what kind of emotions it results into, and we have it way more than them. So isn't it natural to assume that because of that we feel some certain feelings more than them? And because of that, they also have some sort of hormones that we don't have as much. That's why they feel other things more than us. Maybe we can explain this to rationalize why they have a harder time being less emotional.
Yeah, I would push back on that. I'm not sure that testosterone is the thing that links anger. But I mean, you might have a study to go ahead and show me otherwise. I just don't see that as the differentiator.
I understand. I have to admit, I don't have a study that I have to
absolutely.
that I can show you here right now. But anyways, we're going besides the point. This was not what I wanted to discuss.
But I'm asking you, well, sure, we're going beside the point, but the thing is, you made a statement of fact. Your statement of fact is that women cannot be as angry as men. And so I'm challenging that statement of fact. And so because you're the one that brought up the statement of fact, it's on you the burden of proof is on you to reinforce that.
I understand that and accept that. But unfortunately, I can't prove that to you right now.
And that's fine. We can just go ahead and move on. That's not a big deal.
I accept the possibility that I may be wrong, though.
Okay, and that's cool. We can go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
What else did you want to talk about as far as this gift thing? Because I think there's more in this that you had.
Can we turn the conversation from gift to what you have said in your video? Because I think the things that I want to discuss that you said in the video is kind of related. So
let's go ahead and get into that.
Let's get into that. I watched your video.
Okay.
And in the video you said respect is earned. It's not deserved. It's not respect is earned. It's not demanded. Your voice is gone.
How about now? Okay, there we go. Okay, so there are two different things at play here. There is the things that should be the case and the things that are the case.
Okay.
Right? So descriptive and prescriptive are different things. Okay.
Yes.
Prescriptively, in a marriage, respect is due to the husband from the wife. It is divine command that should be the case regardless of his behavior. We see that in Ephesians 5. We see that in 1 Peter 3. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Great. Now, if they sin, and it's a matter of practicality here, if they choose to do something other than that, can you just point to the Bible and say you need to obey? Does that actually change the behavior?
It may or it may not.
Right. But the thing is, practically, that is not a solve for that. Now, in the workplace, you've worked a regular job before, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Have you had good bosses and bad bosses?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So what was the difference between the good bosses and the bad bosses?
Well, the bad bosses were not really bad, but they were just very demanding. And
that sounds like demanding respect.
Yeah.
That sounds like
but
demanding.
I don't blame them for it.
Uh-huh.
That's their job. They should do that, and I deserved the correction.
Right, but you call them the bad boss.
Not really. I mean, I myself don't call them, but in terms of, for the sake of categorization,
okay.
Yes. But
and what about the good boss?
Of course. Okay, I see where you're coming at.
Right? Because you respected them differently based on their conduct. That's how I see it. Okay, so I was in the military. I served in the Air Force for a while, and I've had great bosses and I've had terrible bosses. So the great bosses had high standards and had demands of high performance from me. And because of the way that he acted and the way that I saw him work hard and do the things and work in concert with his demands, I respected him more, and I was willing to give more to be a better soldier for him. And I had bad bosses that were demanding and demanding respect, but they did not act in concert with that level of respect that he was demanding.
I see.
Right? And so, right, wrong, or indifferent, I owed both of them respect due to their position, which I think this is your primary concern, is respect should primarily be positional, but I think that it is both. It is both positional and performative. And so both of them were squadron commanders, so they had the same position, but because of their conduct, the way that they treated themselves and they treated their subordinates and the way that they conducted themselves across their entirety of their command, one was more respectable in my eyes and one was less respectable in my eyes.
I guess I never thought of it that way. I thought I just saw the position and that's it. I need to respect.
Right. But you could go ahead and perform. You could perform in both cases to the standard, right? You could go ahead and say, oh, here's the standard. This person, I don't like him, but I respect his position. I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do exactly what is asked of me. You can do that for both. Hold up. Yes. Let me go ahead and finish up and then I'll give you the mic. So you could do that for both of them. But for the better leader, I went above and beyond because I wanted to, not because I had to.
I see.
And then I'll pass it to you. What do you think?
Here's the thing. In terms of who's the good boss or who's the bad boss, I myself may have some opinions about what makes them good or what makes them bad, but the good one may not be as good as I think, and the bad one may not be as bad as I think, because my perspective on who's under what circumstances and under what categories they are good or bad is subjective. It's from what I've seen, but I don't see the full picture. Maybe they, because there are times, and I'm thinking of strictly on business relations, by the way.
Sure. I think this is a good place to frame the conversation first, because I think most men have had this experience where they've had a good boss and a bad boss.
Yes. In business relations, when I coded in my head a guy is bad, it's usually because the way that he is behaving. He's sometimes behaving rude. He is sometimes yelling. He is sometimes not understanding. He is, all these things. And that makes me feel bad. And that feeling make me categorize him as a bad boss. But when I think of it, if I get out of my feelings and look at the situation in an objective sense, the guy is not really bad. In fact, I see him as a very necessary and detrimental part of that business environment. Without him, everything would collapse. Because the good boss, yes, he was good, but his goodness wasn't enough for people to be disciplined. He needed that guy to be bad, to force, to demand, to be rude if it's necessary. And because of that guy, things worked. I'm not saying that the good boss and his goodness didn't help for anything, but it wasn't in and of itself enough. I think the bad guy was necessary for that. And I understand that now.
I think you're setting up a false dichotomy, though, because you could go ahead and be a good boss. I think you could be a good boss and still enforce standards, and you could be a bad boss and still enforce standards. Standards are enforced. The way that you do that would look different depending on how you conduct yourself and how you comport yourself, right? So I don't think that by definition, to be a good boss, you don't discipline people. I think that's the false dichotomy. I think you're making a comparison that is not equal, and you're unfairly providing one set of circumstances to one guy and a detrimental set of circumstances to another hypothetical guy.
I understand what you're saying, but what I meant was, of course, the good boss disciplines people, but sometimes some people need a different approach, and the way that he disciplines may not be enough. For example, I had a habit of looking at my phone. I worked as a garçon, as a waiter, in a place that is very filled with people. I have to be constant, on guard on everything, and my time and energy is essential. I have to be there all the time, and I have to stay still. I cannot put my back onto a wall, and I have to be there like a soldier. And sometimes when there's not a rush, I take my phone, play, and do things that I shouldn't, right? Because I'm bored, because for some reason. And the good boss tries to discipline me, and he does his above and beyond, but I don't understand. The bad boss comes, and he talks with me in a way that I understand, because there's no way not to understand. Then I have to do what I have to do. You know what I mean? Because the bad boss goes into a direction that the good boss is not willing to go.
I think you're still giving a false dichotomy. I think you're still unfairly characterizing on both sides, because here's the way that I would look at it is a good boss knows what he needs to do for his people to get the result that he wants. So a good boss can still go ahead and talk to you in a way that you need to be talked to because he knows you.
But would that,
and then he could talk to somebody else a different way because they need it a different way.
But
whereas I would say that a bad boss, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Would that talk include being rude to someone, yelling at someone, sometimes swearing someone, sometimes that kind of stuff that is usually seen as inappropriate? Would these include that?
It could. It depends on the circumstance. But I think that you're unfairly
and that guy would be a guy would do that would be a good boss?
He could be. But the thing is, that's not the thing that defines him as a good boss or a bad boss.
I see.
Right? I don't see it that way. Like, I see a good boss as somebody that takes care of his people and he goes ahead and enforces standards, and the mission gets done in a way that not only is the mission done, but everybody is happy to be doing the mission. Whereas the other guy can go ahead and give discipline in a hardline and rude way and get the mission done, but then people dislike him and they do malicious compliance along the way too.
Yeah, but I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. That's what I mean.
Well, I think that one is more sustainable for the long term and one of them is less sustainable for the long term.
It's the carrot and stick situation, isn't it?
No, I disagree. Because you could be a good boss and have the carrot and the stick. And you could be a bad boss. You could have the carrot and the stick. And you just decide not to use the carrot because you rather use the stick.
Yeah.
The
I guess
thing is,
so.
leaders have all these tools at their disposal, and whether they, depending on the circumstance, if they choose different tools that are in alignment with what their subordinates need, then that's one thing. Or you may have leaders, like I find that a lot of people, when they first step up into leadership for the first time, they have a hard time understanding how to lead people. And so they take their new power and new authority, and they often go ahead and see every problem as a nail, and they treat their authority as a hammer. And oftentimes that goes ahead and results in low morale and people disliking that leader and then actively working against that leader's interests.
Yes.
And it isn't until you learn how to go ahead and balance when you use the carrot and when you use the stick that you end up being a better leader.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And so when we go ahead and talk about this, respect is earned. That's about practicality, not about position. I agree with you that a husband is, by divine command, owed the respect of his wife in a Christian marriage context. I have no disagreement with you there whatsoever. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that respect is too low a bar. I think that the bar is actually much higher. The bar is actually reverence, not just respect.
All right. I understand you perfectly. You say that in theory, this is how it's supposed to happen, but in practice, it doesn't happen. And
I think that's not exactly what I said, but keep going, and then I'll adjust where I need to adjust.
It doesn't happen every time, right?
It doesn't happen automatically. Like, you don't just go ahead and you say your vows, and then automatically she gives you respect, automatically you give her love, and everything works out hunky-dory. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many marital problems in the United States and across the world.
Yes, but there is still a dynamic of trying to earn something, right? That's there in one shape or form, right?
Sure. But I think that's a practical it's a practicality that is required.
All right. Earning and deserving respect as a practicality that is required. So if this is there for the husband, it has to be there for the wife as well.
Sure. There's a difference between what she's commanded and what she does. Just like there's a difference between what we're commanded and what we do sometimes, right?
Yeah, but
and that's still our responsibility. Our part of it is our responsibility. Their part of it is their responsibility. And part of our part is guiding them. Yeah, I just said that.
Yes. Can we just say that my part is mine, her part is hers, and just leave it at that? Because isn't as leaders, it's in our job description that when she is not holding her part of the bargain, it's our job to tell her that, deal with that, do something about that, right?
I agree. But the thing is, how do you do that? The how is what matters right here, not the what. The what we agree on.
All right. So this is what I mean. If respect is supposed to be earned, because respect is demanded from wife to the husband, then our love and sacrifice and everything we provide is also supposed to be earned. And
it's conditional.
Yes. A disrespectful wife doesn't really earn that, does she?
Correct. And part of our corrective behavior is to withdraw that affection, time, and all that. Yeah.
All right. So
I think we're on the same sheet of music on this.
Exactly. You talk about withdrawal, which is I think the most important and essential part, but you don't really talk about that in the video. And I think
because I talk about it in the next video. So I have another video that's coming up where the whole video is about how to rebuke your wife.
Okay, you shared that?
Not yet. I recorded it on Friday. When it comes, I'll send it to you.
All right.
So basically what I end up doing is I go ahead and express how, like, if you look at the adulterous woman that the Pharisees want to stone, Jesus goes ahead and addresses her sin, but she is humble and she already knows she's in the wrong and she is conforming to his will. And he says, go and sin no more, because that's all she needs. She's already humble, right?
Yes.
But then when you look at the churches in Revelation 2 and 3, he treats them very differently because they are not humble. They are not in subjection. So he goes ahead and tells them where they've done good, tells them where they've done bad, tells them where they need to change, tells them if they change, this is the good thing that'll happen. If you don't change, this is the bad thing that'll happen.
Is that an ultimatum?
It's not an ultimatum. It's setting a standard. She gets to choose.
All right. So in the same way that
we can go and pull it up.
Then we as husband can say, if you do this, this is going to happen. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. And
yeah, that's totally reasonable.
If we talk about that, a lot of people would frame that as giving ultimatums.
Sure, they could frame it that way, but that's not what it is.
Yeah.
They have the freedom of choice in the matter. And the thing is, like, it's going to be, hopefully, if we're doing things right, it's going to be a matter of proportionality, right? You're not going to just threaten divorce over everything. Like,
yes,
you and I think that we're on the same sheet of music, that there are very limited circumstances where divorce is on the table. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think, I mean, it's a very hard decision, and you shouldn't take it lightly. And
right, but you get to decide what your circumstances are, provided that they're backed up in scripture. Like, I'll give you an example from my marriage. I told my wife that in no uncertain terms, if she were to cheat on me, I would divorce her. Point blank, stop. No ifs, ands, or buts. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Immediate.
Yes.
Right? So that's supported by scripture. And I let her know that that was the thing. And I would stand up for it because that is the right thing for me to do. And that is my standard that I'm holding. And so she knows that based on the fact that I'm a man of my word and I always do the things that I say I'm going to do, if she does this, she knows that I'm going to follow through with what I do. I tell my children, I don't make threats, I make promises. and I always keep my word. So
that's right. How many kids do you have?
I have 4 children.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I would love to have 4 children.
Buddy, well, get to it. Get to it. You know what makes babies, right?
I do.
All right. So let's go ahead and read through. I'm going to read through Revelation 2 and give you an example of how Jesus goes ahead and rebukes his church, his wife, right?
Can you, after you do that, can we give like a 2-minute break?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do it. Sure, we can do that. Let me share screen. Let me find a tab. Revelation 2. Share. Let's see. All right. Let me see if now I can add it to the stage. Bam. And then I'll read it from here. Okay, cool. So Revelation 2. So this is to the church in Thyatira, and it starts in Revelation 2, verse 18. And so the angel to the church in Thyatira write, these things says the Son of God, that's Jesus, of course, who has eyes like flame of fire and his feet like fine brass. I know your works, love, service, faith, and your patience. As for your works, the last are more than the first. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. Because you allow that woman, Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit sexual immorality and eat things sacrificed to idols, and I gave her time to repent of her sexual immorality, and she did not repent. Indeed, I will cast her into a sickbed, and those who commit adultery with her into great tribulation, unless they repent of their deeds. I will kill her children with death. And all the churches shall know that I am he who searches the minds and hearts, and I will give to each one of you according to your works. Now to you I say, and to the rest of Thyatira, as many as do not have this doctrine, who have not known the depths of Satan, as they say, I will put on you no other burden, but hold fast what you have till I come. And he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He shall rule over them with a rod of iron. He shall be dashed to pieces, or they shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels. And also I have received from my Father, and I will give him the morning star. And he who has ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. So it follows the pattern. First, he greets them. He tells them what they did right. Then he tells them what they did wrong. Then he's like, look, you need to go ahead and change your ways. If you do, good things will happen. If you don't, bad things will happen. That's the pattern for an unwilling woman.
When I read the book of Revelation, I can understand why the early Christians believed that Jesus was coming soon.
Right. Hey, how's it going, Martin? Good to see you. All right, you want to take a quick 2-minute break?
Please.
Go ahead and take your break, and I'll go ahead and see what we got. Let's see. NZSW 1975. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the chat.
Your voice is gone again. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Cool. All right, let's see. NZSW 1975. I don't think JC would do as much as there was no legal witnesses. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is possible. Let me stop sharing this screen. There we go. All right. So far, we've been talking a lot about how you hold frame, what are some things involved, how to be a good leader, how to be a bad leader, things like that. Do you guys have any questions so far? We got 14 people live in the chat. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch this and to go ahead and have us as we spar. We go ahead and agree on a lot of things, and it's just some things maybe he has more of a hard line like thought process, but when we get to actually talk about it, we get to see that we're much more aligned than we are apart. And he's right. In so many ways, the modern church does a terrible job of teaching husbands how to actually hold women accountable, because in the Western world, these women are going crazy. They have no idea how to respect a man. They have no idea how they should treat a man, because the vast majority of them, one, they either came from a single mother household, or they came from a situation where the father wasn't respected, because this feminism has been going on for generations, at least until the 1960s. And if you go ahead and talk to Peter Wright or Paul Elam, they would say this has been happening since like the 12th century, back when the first romantic marriage model came out. And, you know, when Eleanor of Aquitaine would pay troubadours to spread romantic stories around. So that's an interesting thing that has been going on. And we see that this romantic ethos and this chivalry has really done a lot of things to provide negative inclinations to the Western world. And it's just been a matter of taking several generations to get it done. Looks like Zafer is back. So let me go ahead and add him back to the stage. Cool. Welcome back, Zafer.
Can you give me a couple of seconds? I need to fix something here.
Yeah, that's fine, man. Yeah, you're good. All right. So just to go ahead and recap real quick, we went ahead and talked about frame and how you can go ahead and demonstrate frame in a number of ways. I think that one of the most important things as a man is to realize or recognize the things that you will and will not accept from other people. And this isn't just about a relationship. This is about relationships with the people as a whole in the world. I think that's really important for us to realize these things. So when we go ahead and talk about these things, it's important to recognize that this isn't just in the context of a mating and dating relationship or a marriage, but this is useful information for how you expect people to treat you in the world around you, right? Like if you are at work, you expect that when you are providing quality service and that you're doing your job and you're doing the things that you ought to be doing, that you should be treated with dignity and respect. And that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. This is a reasonable thing for us to extend to one another as ladies and gentlemen. However, I think in our society, we have a lot of problems actually acting in a gentlemanly way. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that we're brought up, the culture we're in, and things of that nature. So when we go ahead and fail to treat each other with dignity and respect when it's earned, right? When we're going ahead and acting in concert with what our duties and responsibilities are in the world, that's a reasonable thing for us to understand. On the other hand, I think that a lot of people have not figured out that the way that the world treats you oftentimes is a reflection of what your expectations are of the world. So, for example, if you constantly are getting bad behavior from people around you, for the most part, it's because you're allowing it in your presence. And maybe you don't have a presence that's strong enough and consolidated enough where you can go ahead and set boundaries with people around you. And for a lot of people, that's very tough, and I get it. It's interesting that if we go ahead and take this back to the church perspective, I was doing a meeting with a couple of ladies over their programs yesterday, over the nursery and the childhood education program for church. And in a lot of ways, they were talking about how when they have to go ahead and enforce standards with members of the congregation, that they have a really hard time actually talking to them in such a way that they can accept the message and make changes. A lot of people, instead of like taking rebuke or taking correction, instead of like maintaining the relationship, a lot of times they'll just leave. And I'm like, that's really cowardly on their part, because like if you were to go ahead and have genuine disagreements with somebody, I think that we have a really great example in the book of Matthew of how to go and do that. That's you go to the person directly and you talk to them about it. You give them an opportunity to have a reasonable discourse about where the substandard behavior is, or at least where you perceive the substandard behavior is. Give them an opportunity to express their side of it, because here's the thing. Maybe there's other pieces of the puzzle that you didn't know about, that you are unaware of, that may change your perspective on their behavior on the matter. And so if we go ahead and take time to go to our brother one-on-one and we have the discussion with them, we give them the opportunity to treat them like a gentleman and give them the benefit of the doubt that they maybe have something on their side that is reasonable, that maybe we misunderstood them. Now, don't get me wrong. If they're in the wrong, it's also our responsibility to help bring them into correction. And if they won't take that correction, the book of Matthew, the example that we're given, tells us then bring 2 or 3 other brothers with you and readdress the situation. And if that still doesn't work, bring them before the elders. And in the event that that still doesn't work, that they're to go ahead and be cast aside. Because if there's a serious sin problem and they need to be brought into repentance and they need to be brought into correction in line with the standard, we owe it to them to do our due diligence to bring them to the standard. And if we fail to do that, we're failing to do our responsibility to lead them in a better way. Let's see. Let's check on Zafer, see how he's doing. Are we? All right, you there yet? Can't hear you. Okay, cool. So there's that. We're going to go ahead and give him some time to work on his microphone. All right, so other things that we talked about. So we talked about maintaining frame, and we talked about how there's a difference between a good boss and a bad boss. And we can go ahead and say that positionally, we deserve authority, we deserve respect, we deserve all these things. But if we're acting out of concert with the things that we should be doing, it makes sense if we are not treated with respect, if we're not respectable. Now, I'm not saying that that's how it should be. I'm saying that that is a matter of practicality. And we have all had experiences in our lives where we've had good bosses and bad bosses. And just like Martin says, yeah, true, iron sharpening iron. Yeah, iron sharpening iron is one of the most important things that we should be doing for our brothers and sisters in Christ. And I think that that's one of the most important reasons why it's important to develop brotherhood. Specifically, I've got a video coming out about that. I've got other videos where I discussed brotherhood. In fact, shoot, I'll go ahead and link one in the chat just in case someone is interested. Playlists. Let's see here. Brotherhood Reforged. Videos. Oh, is that Zafer? Let me add you back to the stage, bud. Cool. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Cool. I was just recapping a lot of our conversation. I'm going to go ahead and link a video in the chat for people about brotherhood. And then we can go ahead and get back to the conversation. I was just reading one second. Let me go ahead and get this. I was just reading about Jehoiada being buried in the city of David regarding his influence over Joash. Okay, cool. Let me know what you were thinking about that and give us a little bit more perspective, NZSW. And then go ahead, Zafer. What do we got?
So in the video, you said a wife wants a leader, not another child to manage. She's looking for a man who can be decisive.
Yes.
So I think
I agree with this.
that because I mean, I partially agree, but I think there's a side on the guy that we need to discuss here because
Okay. Well, let me see if you understand what I
this
said correctly. Let me see. Let me go ahead and clarify what I was saying so that maybe if there's like a cultural difference or a contextual difference, that way
yes.
you can go ahead and address the steel man rather than straw manning the position. Is that fair?
All right. Let's
Okay.
go.
So when I talk about a woman wants a leader and not another child, I'm talking about this concept that is often brought up in the Western world called emotional load that women like to talk about a lot. And they talk about how they don't want to have extra children. And what they usually mean is when a guy helps out around the house, she wants him to do things the way that she says that they should be done without her having to tell him how to do it.
And that's crazy to me.
Right. That's crazy to me because if you expect something to be done, you may want to give them instructions on how to do it and then not hover over them. Exactly. Additionally, other things that they usually go ahead and highlight as part of this idea of emotional load is when she asks for help, he asks her, what are the specific and enumerated things that you would like me to help with? He is asking for direction of what would be a logical way of helping her. But to her, that sounds like, oh, he is putting the responsibility of figuring that out on her. And so that's usually the thing that women will point out as why men are acting like children.
This seems to me that men are acting like men and women want men to act like women.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
This is how it looks like. But you exactly said everything that I was going to say. So.
Okay. So that's why I wanted to clarify things up front because I didn't want there to be a misunderstanding and then us go 5 minutes on a misunderstanding. Is that fair?
Because, yes, I have a lot of experience on this because this is something that women say a lot. And you said it yourself, the whole sentence framed in a way that women frame this. And
right.
They say this a lot, and I think it's like
I think it's bullcrap.
Yes, yes, because if this is a problem, they create, and they create not as something that they don't realize they create. It's actively something that they do in every single second of their marriage. They pave the way of coming into this relationship dynamic, and then complain when it happens. It's like you did it. It's like
but they hate when you say that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that solved a lot of these problems for me in my marriage. So up until like year 5, I didn't know the difference between hearing her and hearing her. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times my wife would want to complain for the sake of complaining just to go ahead and get something off of her chest. And I made the mistake of thinking she wanted something fixed.
I have a problem with that kind of thinking either.
Right. So I would go ahead and like later on in the marriage, I would start asking her, do you want me to just listen or would you like me to do something about this? And so for the most part, that would solve so many problems because the thing is, if she would let me, I just asked her a simple question and I didn't care what the response was. It could be, I just want you to listen, or it could be, I need help fixing something. In either of those circumstances, I was perfectly content. But what I didn't want to have happen is for her to talk at me for 15 minutes and not know what I'm supposed to do with the information.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times they tell stories because the story is they're taking us on an emotional journey. And that's not how we think usually. Usually we think of objectives. What are we seeking to do? What is the problem to solve? Right? What is the thing? But to them, it isn't that. It is the story itself is the problem.
Yes. And that is tiring sometimes.
It is.
Don't get me wrong. I love listening to my wife, and but there are some times that I just want to be in silence. You know what I mean? Sometimes you argue,
100%.
but after the argument, there is silence, and you get enjoy that silence. You know?
Absolutely. I get it. And it's really funny because so just like you expressed, there's sometimes that you just want silence. We've gotten to the point in our marriage where when she brings something up, if I'm in the point where I just need silence for my peace of mind because I've been handling stuff with the businesses and all of that throughout the day, and I've been like really putting in the hours to make things happen, I would just say, hey, babe, I want to listen to you, but I want to give you my attention fully. And I can't do that right now. Can this wait 10 or 15 minutes? Most of the time, it can wait 10 or 15 minutes, and she's not going to have a problem with it. And that gives me the time to have my space and to let her know that I want for both of us to be happy in this, but I can't give her what she wants right this second. And she's grown to trust that I will make good on my word, because I always do, that she has no reason to distrust that that'll happen. So in 10 or 15 minutes, I'll go ahead and be like, hey, did you want to talk about that thing now? And sometimes she doesn't even want to talk about that thing because she figured it out.
Yeah.
And then other times, yeah, we talk about it, and I ask her the same question. Do you want me to listen, or do you want me to fix something? That way I know how to listen.
Yes.
So does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And another thing that I would like to discuss with you is the nature of command and demand as a part of leadership.
Oh, excellent. Cool. So what do you want to discuss on that?
Well, I don't see commanding and demanding necessarily and inherently wrong.
Agreed.
And sometimes it's necessary as a leader, because if you can't demand and command, then you're not a leader. It's the part of a job. You have to do it someday. I mean, you would argue, we can argue how you should do it, but there has to be, you should do it. Without the ability to set direction decisively and hold people accountable, you are a coordinator, facilitator, or influencer at best, not a leader.
Agreed.
If you have to, and another thing, if you have to convince her and make her agree with you every time you have a decision,
you're not a leader.
Seems like exactly that's democracy. If your decisions has to go through in her lenses of what is acceptable, what makes sense, and if she disagrees, you can't execute, then it's not really you who's leading.
I agree.
Right?
She ends up leading because she uses the power of veto and like emotional sabotage.
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
If every single one of your decisions has to be approved by her, and if it's not approved by her, it cannot be executed, then you're not.
She's the leader.
You are a manager under her contract, under her employment. This is the thing. I think what I've seen, a lot of women don't want a leader. They want a manager. I can hire a manager for my business to manage my things, the kind of responsibilities that I don't want to deal with, but she's not going to be my leader. The manager is not going to be my leader because he's on my payroll. He does what I tell him to do. And I think that's what a lot of women does. And especially because when you are talking about what a man must do in the video, that how to how to deserve to get the respect back, these are the points you said. Become a man of your word, take initiative, have your own life and goals, and learn to lead through conflict. These are 4 points that you have said in the video.
Yep.
And I think these are a manager can have them too, but not necessarily be a leader. You know,
I don't think you could do the fourth one as a manager.
How?
So lead through
yes,
conflict.
You can't. Sorry. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
But
Does that make sense?
Them you can. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, a manager is a lower level leader.
Yes.
Right? But it isn't until you have the fourth one that you are actually a leader. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like they are building blocks. And then the fourth one is the thing that when stuff happens, you need to be able to want to command. And this is exactly the point you're talking about. And where we would have disagreement, I think, is matters of degree, not matters of substance.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Right? Like, what I would say is that a man should listen to his wife because she might have something valuable to add. But It is a man's responsibility to set the direction afterwards. You take in the information and then you make the decision.
Exactly.
Right? And I think we agree on that. And I'm not saying that you go ahead and you give your wife a vote. It isn't voting. This is a democracy.
Exactly.
But the thing is, and here's the thing.
A lot of women do want democracy.
Well, they think they want democracy because they're married to guys they don't actually desire.
Yeah.
They're married to men that are their second option.
Yes.
Right? And if they're married to the guy that was their first choice, then chances are they wouldn't be acting like this.
You are correct.
All right. So I've got a quick video.
Says this. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. I'll bring it up.
I've seen Rollo saying this, and I saved it. He says leadership implies subordinations. Leadership implies authority. Leadership implies a hierarchy. Leadership implies exercisable power. Leadership implies compliance from followers. If you cannot accept these basics, you don't want a leader, you want a puppet. I think this is where we come down to.
All right.
Lead me when I'm in the mood to be led.
All right. Have you seen this before? This is from The Office.
No, I haven't. I haven't actually watched Office, but
okay, cool. So let's go and watch it. Let me know if the volume is on.
I got away with everything under the last boss, and it wasn't good for me at all. So I want guidance. I want leadership. But don't just like boss me around, you know? Like lead me. Lead me when I'm in the mood to be led.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. So basically, I'm going to be the actual leader, but I'm going to pretend you are the leader. I'm going to give you the leadership when I feel like it, but then I'll take it back when it's not in my best interest. Right?
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that's basically what you were just expressing, where you're like, a lot of times they just want to be led when they feel like they want to be led, not because they actually want a leader.
And this is the problem. When we are talking about how men can be better leaders, it's important to point out that it's not only how you become a good leader, it's also her willingness to be the subordinate. And whatever it is that you do, you may or you may not make her feel like she wants to be the subordinate. It could work, but also could not work. You can be the perfect guy you can be a perfect leader, she still may not want to submit you, and then it doesn't work.
Sure. And the thing is, like, that's a choice on her part, but it doesn't stop you from having to lead regardless. And she can go ahead and have emotional tantrums, but you're going to go ahead and do the thing.
Does it? How? Because
what do you mean?
I'll
give you an example.
We just defined leading.
Sorry. So if I'll give you an example of what it would look like. So if you go ahead and say, hey, you're spending too much on the credit card.
Yep.
And she's like, I don't care. I'm still going to go ahead and buy everything. Well, as the leader, you cut up her credit card.
Yeah.
You just take it and you cut it up.
Oh, my God.
Like, there you go.
Masculinity.
That's okay. We need some toxic masculinity up in here. Right? But the thing is, like, she may not agree with it. But the thing is, you are looking at something beyond just right here at the edge of your nose. You're looking for the long-term benefit of the family. And if she's overspending on dumb things that don't make sense to do, it is on you to go ahead and set the standard and enforce it. And that's one way you can do it. She can have bad feelings about it, but you have done the thing. You have mechanically removed that from her ability to use for that period of time.
Yes. And if everything would be in our power to just basically execute and cancel like this, that would be perfect. But the thing is, it's not. We can't just basically do something that you have described, because not everything is in our control. If the card is under my name, I can close it. But if the card is under her name, I can't close it. It's her card, right? And your voice is gone again. Gone.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the thing is, sure, maybe that doesn't work for that circumstance, but there are tools available to us for each circumstance. So here's the thing is, So in the United States, this may not be the case in Brazil, but in the United States, if she is doing all this crazy stuff, what you can do is you could file for separation. And then once you file for separation, your finances are no longer coupled in the same way. And so if she is abusing the financial status of corporate property, a property held in common, that could be held against her in divorce proceedings.
Okay, but I kind of heard that the laws aren't really favorable for men in U.S.
It isn't about a man or a woman thing. Both sides of that can go ahead and do that.
But does that perfectly function?
What it handles is it stops your consequences for her bad behavior.
Okay, but can she just go to the court and claim that this is financial abuse and basically undo the whole thing?
What do you mean? No, she can't.
Okay.
Like, she can go ahead and claim financial abuse, but that is not, you painted a situation where the card is in her name. How is it financial abuse when he wants to remove himself from her actions?
I don't know, man.
There's not a legal claim that she can make for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing is, you've set a standard. Hey, you're overspending. This is a card that's in your name. It's not according to your Social Security. You can go ahead and cut it up. And if she wants to go ahead and order a new card, then sure, she has every right to do that. And she can be mad at you for it. But the thing is, you are stopping the behavior, giving her an opportunity to make other decisions along the way. And if she fails to repent, then you escalate your consequences, just like anything else in life.
I understand.
And the thing is, as a man, you are better off being in a situation where you are not dependent on her. And even if there are consequences associated with things, that you are able to bear those consequences for your side of it and protect yourself so that you are not beholden to the consequences that she does for things that are outside of the bounds of law.
Is he going as all right? Did I go? Hi.
No, you're good. Okay, let's go ahead and hit some of these chats real quick. Okay.
All right.
NZSW, this thing about Jehoiada. Jehoiada, it was a priest. He was one of the high priests in the Old Testament during David's time, I think, or a little bit after David's time.
All right.
So, yeah, Jehoiada was one of the only ones that wasn't of royal blood. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see. Next up, we got Martin. What do you think about talking to your worries and fear to your wife? Oh, okay. I think it's a bad idea, generally speaking, to really bring things up with your wife first. I think that this is better for you to talk to your brotherhood, the male friends about things, because a lot of these things that you are afraid of or have worries about, unless they are very specifically related to your family, I think is much better circulated through men that have similar worries and fears that they have also gone through. And I think that it needlessly puts emotional burden on your wife when you are much better off having a strong frame and working through your issues with your friends. What do you think, Zafer?
Sorry, I was going through the notes that I have had here to continue the discussion.
Well, what do you think about talking to your wife about your worries and your fears? What do you think about that?
I usually don't.
Okay, so we're on the same sheet of music. Generally, we don't. But there's some things where it makes sense to do that. And I think it's a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, I would talk to my worries and my fears and my concerns to my close circle of male friends first. Because most of my male friends have been through a lot of things in life. And so they have a lot of experience through the kinds of struggles and strain and stress that I've been going through. And so they're better equipped to provide counsel. And I think that my wife is less equipped because her breadth of experience is not in the same kind of things that I have concerns over.
Yes.
Cool. Hopefully that answers your question, Martin. And then next up, we got another thing from NZSW 1975. I'm pro OT law, so I think that leaders must stay within these boundaries. I think there's a lot to be said about that. If a leader steps outside of OT rules, then the subordinates should question the leader. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay, so you're talking about Lord Acton and his statement that absolute power, or power tends to corrupt, so absolute power would tend to corrupt absolutely. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There are boundaries to the relationship and the leadership that we have as men, and we are subject to the laws of God. Totally get that. What do you think?
I agree.
Cool. Great comment. You know, we're in agreement here. I think that guys would go ahead and maybe have differences about whether it's only the OT. I would say that OT and NT have a lot of weight to them, and that we would be disrespectful not to look to the Old Testament for guidance as well. Cool. You were looking at notes. What's the next thing you wanted to talk about?
Well, I have seen you saying this thing. Let's stop focusing on what she is doing wrong and start focusing on what you can do right.
Okay. What's the context in which I say that? Because it's very specific.
Let's go.
So the very specific context is I say that it is important for the man to do his work first. Not that we go ahead and not focus on the woman at all. If you as a man are handling your responsibilities and you're doing what you need to be doing, then you have every right and responsibility to then give guidance to the wife about behavior. Yes. But I find that a lot of times men are not looking at themselves in the mirror to go ahead and do the work on themselves before they do the work on their wife. That's the context.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a black and white kind of situation. I think that men and women have a matter of progress, because I'm not perfect, neither is my wife, but I'm working towards sanctification and perfection over time. I'm working toward being better. The thing is, I'm already on a solid foundation, so now I have the freedom to exercise leadership and guidance from a more masculine and consolidated frame than I would be if I wasn't doing what I need to be doing. This goes back to the being a good leader versus a bad leader dynamic.
I understand, but what do you think of the situation where if you ask any wife that openly disrespects her husband, she will have tons of reasons why she is doing that, right?
Okay.
And some of those reasons could be right and correct. The guy may be doing some things wrong, and that's the reason why she's disrespecting her. But then are we to say that basically gives her the right? She is fine to do that?
Not at all. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
So as a guy, even though I'm making some mistakes and wrong things, I still can say or should say that you're disrespecting me and that's wrong. Don't do it.
Agreed. You can still do that. Right. The question is, how effective will it be?
Well,
it depends is really the right answer. It depends on how much she is willing to go ahead and take correction. If she doesn't respect you and you say you're not respecting me, that doesn't actually fix the problem. Now, this goes back to our discussion earlier on, where in 1 Peter 3, there's a very clear command that a woman is to submit to her husband regardless if he's a believer or not. And if he's not a believer, chances are he's not going to be doing a lot of things right, because he's operating from a different worldview. She still independently has the responsibility to submit to him, but him telling her to submit will have a certain level of effectiveness depending on the nature of the relationship.
I see. Do you think there are moments and situations where you should tolerate disrespect?
No, I don't think tolerating disrespect is something you should do as a husband. Now, let me hold on. Let me add some flavor to it. If I am acting in a disrespectful manner or in a disrespectable manner, I would expect that that's the consequences of my actions.
Yes.
Should it be the case? No, because she has an independent responsibility not to disrespect me. However, I realize that practically speaking, if I am acting in a disrespectful manner, that could be a consequence that I'm to bear because I'm responsible for my actions independently. Now, should it ever happen in public? No. I think that's a line, is if you go ahead and disrespect your husband in public, There's no reason that should be the case unless the man is publicly disrespecting the wife in public first. And then at that point, you guys are both completely in the wrong and you need to remove yourself from the situation.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I brought this up because this was the main disagreement I had with Lasta. He even kind of mentioned into this podcast. And I said something along the lines of this, basically, that you should never tolerate disrespect. And he says that he's not really bought into the idea and proceeded to brought some situations where rationalizing toleration of disrespect could be something that you should do. And it's like he's framing in a way that me not wanting to tolerate her disrespect equals to me being in her frame.
No, yeah, I would disagree. So yeah, I'm on board with you that you tolerate or either tolerating or specifically stating that you're not tolerating it doesn't put yourself in her frame.
So
it's a matter of how you do it.
My main diagnosis on why guys are being in marriages that are chronic disrespect happens, I think, the main core diagnosis is that they don't respect themselves.
Yes. Why do you think that is?
They tolerate behaviors that no self-respecting man would tolerate for many years.
Okay.
They do. And this doesn't happen overnight. They tolerate for small things, little things. They rationalize it, given to the reasons that we have spoken before. Oh, she's a woman. She's in her time of the month. She's going through something, blah, blah, blah. And then the more they tolerate, the worse it gets.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a video about that exact thing that I released earlier this week on the 16th. Let me go ahead and share it in the chat. Cool. All right. So I did a video on henpecking. Are you familiar with the term henpecking?
No. Can you define it to me?
So henpecking, have you heard of betaization through 1,000 concessions?
Of course. The beautiful concept Richard Cooper brought.
Yeah. So henpecking is that thing.
Okay.
Henpecking is when she goes ahead and tries to correct you on things, you just let her do that. And you just let her do it over and over again. And you give up a piece of yourself every time you submit to her. And you put yourself in her frame more and more over time. So yeah, this video that I just linked in the chat, that's what I did. I talked about it. I think it's like a 5-minute video about henpecking. Let's see.
And women do this for silliest of things. It's like it comes from even the way that you wash your hands, open the door, put the dishes on its place, like everything. It's demanded in a way that she wants it to be done, and then you need to do it exactly in that way.
In fact, you know what? Let's watch that video together. It's my video, so I can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and copy this, paste it. There we go. Let's stop. Go ahead and go ahead and start it here. Present, share screen. There we go. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to maximize it. And here we go. I'm going to speed.
I think you are not sharing the screen, Mike.
Okay, give me a sec. Oh, I haven't added it to the stage. Hold up. Let me do that. Add to stage. There we go. Okay, cool. Do you see it on your side now?
This studio of yours is very cool. Is this AI or real?
No, this is a real studio.
Man, cool. It's so cool.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and start with the video. I'm going to put it at 1.5 speed so we can go ahead and get through the content.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Most Christian men don't lose authority in their marriage overnight. It happens slowly. One comment, one correction, one small compromise at a time, until one day you realize you hesitate before speaking, you second guess your decisions, and you're leading less and less. That process has a name, henpecking. and most men never see it coming. Today, I'm going to show you what it actually is, why it destroys masculinity, and how to stop it before it costs you your leadership. Let's define it clearly. Henpecking is not a single argument, a disagreement, or an occasional correction. It is a pattern. It's a pattern of constant correction, subtle criticism, undermining decisions, and reframing leadership as wrong or insensitive. And here's why it's dangerous. It's gradual. It doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like she's just helping, or she's just more detail-oriented, or I probably should have handled that better. You adjust, then adjust again and again and again, until eventually you stop asserting yourself altogether. And this is where most Christian men completely misunderstand masculinity. The first truth is that henpecking doesn't even start with her. It starts with your passivity. It's hard, but it's necessary. When a man avoids conflict, avoids clarity, and avoids decision-making, and if that vacuum gets filled, it's because you don't set direction, hold standards, or make decisions. Someone else will. So she steps in. At first, it's to help, or to stabilize, or to keep things moving the way that she wants them to be. But over time, that help turns into control, and your passivity trains the dynamic. The second truth is that unchecked criticism destroys authority. Every time a decision is questioned, a direction is undermined, and a standard is challenged, and you do nothing, you reinforce the pattern. Now listen carefully. It's not the criticism itself that's the problem. It's the lack of correction. Because over time, what happens? You begin to pre-filter your decisions, you avoid certain topics, and you speak more cautiously. And eventually, you stop leading clearly. Not because you can't, but because you've been trained not to. And once that happens, respect starts to erode. She might even gloat to her girlfriends about how you're so well trained. Like your permissiveness is a trophy on her mantle because authority that isn't exercised doesn't remain. Here's the third truth. Masculinity requires reestablishing frame. At some point, a man has to decide this stops here. Not aggressively, not emotionally, but clearly, because leadership requires boundaries, direction, and stability. That means when something is off, you address it. When something is undermined, you correct it. When leadership is challenged, you clarify it. Not harshly, but firmly. Because if you don't define the frame, the relationship will define it for you. And what that means is she's going to be defining the terms of the relationship. And that's not good for either.
This is exactly
So
what Romo said.
First, you start leading again immediately. Not gradually, immediately. Make decisions clearly, calmly, directly. Even the small ones. Because leadership rebuilds through action. Second, you address patterns, not moments. Don't argue with every comment. Identify the pattern, then address the pattern directly. You might say, hey, this pattern isn't working. This is what needs to happen instead. Calm, direct, done. Third, you hold your ground. This is where most men fail. They start strong, then fold as soon as there's pushback. Expect resistance because you're changing the dynamic. She will test you. But if you hold steady, the dynamic will shift. Fourth, you rebuild yourself because this isn't just external. You need to rebuild your discipline, your clarity, your decisiveness because strong leadership starts from within. Henpecking doesn't destroy a man overnight. It weakens him slowly through small compromises, avoided decisions, and unchecked patterns until leadership disappears. But here's the truth. It only works if you allow it. And the moment that you step back into leadership, you reestablish direction and hold your ground, everything starts to change. If you're ready to rebuild yourself, to restore strength in your marriage, and to stop drifting in your own home, I've built a program specifically.
Okay, cool. So that's the outro. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so what do you think about that?
I'm not really sure. I disagree. The notion of it only works if you allow it completely.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get into that. Obviously, this is a 5-minute video, and so I can't go ahead and get into every single minute detail. So what do you got?
Well, because this sounds like it implies that you can control her. You know what I mean?
No, this goes back to what you will and will not accept. This is the same thing you were talking about earlier.
Exactly. But even if you don't accept, she can still continue to behave this way. Even if you correct, she can still continue to behave this way. Even if you do everything that you think is supposed to be done is right, after all that, she can still continue to behave that way.
You're misunderstanding what the key point is. The key point isn't about what she's doing. It's about how he changes as a result of her actions. So if you go ahead and keep doing your thing, the negative effects of henpecking cannot take hold of you. That's what I'm getting at.
It may not be.
Because it's two sides of the same coin. Her actions have an effect on you if you allow them to have an effect on you. If you do not allow them to have an effect on you, you can still be who you are without letting your decision-making go to her. That's the difference. This isn't about correcting her side of it yet. This is about correcting his side of it so he doesn't get baited through 1,000 concessions. That's the difference.
I see.
Does that make sense? Because we're addressing one side of the coin right now with that 5-minute video. Because most guys don't understand how it works. A lot of guys, they get suckered into this And they go ahead and just keep giving and giving because they think that being nice is what's going to go ahead and get them what the guy wants. And for the most part, what the guy wants is he wants bedroom action, and he wants not just like starfish bedroom action. He wants like the cartwheels and backflips and all the good stuff. Right? And he doesn't get that if he's a nice guy.
Yes. He doesn't.
And when you allow yourself to get henpecked, she doesn't respect you, and she's not going to do the things you want her to do anyway.
This is the thing. Handpecked, is that it?
Henpecked. Yeah. Or you can say betatized. I mean, either way. It's
All
just
right.
that's a common term that's heard in Christian circles is why I use the term.
Let's call it betatization.
Sounds good.
You have the ability to it's under, you can choose to be betatized or you can refuse it, reject it, right?
Correct. Yes.
Agreed. But even if every single time you reject to be betatized, doesn't mean that she will not stop trying.
Yeah, and that's a different topic. Completely.
Yes.
That's going to correct the behavior. Correcting the behavior is a different thing than resisting the betatization.
Okay, you're going step by step, understandable.
Yeah, it's a one step at a time. Right? Because
Yes.
here's the thing, is if, like, let's imagine a boat that has a leak. So if you have a leak, your boat starts filling with water and you start sinking, right?
Yes.
So if you go ahead and spend time trying to take the water out of the boat, but the leak is still there, you're not actually accomplishing anything. So what I'm trying to go ahead and get guys to do is to see that there's a leak in the boat when you accept henpecking, and that you should fix that leak first. Then you can get the water out of the ship.
I understand.
Right? Because it doesn't make sense to spend time trying to correct her behavior that's causing the leak in the first place if the water's still coming in.
This example that you have given right now is, to me, it feels like exactly how the catch-up story of Lasta is like, to take the water out when there's a hole.
Yeah, but I think that there's
sounds
different
exactly
situations.
like that in my head.
Sure, they're different situations though, right? Because in the situation that Lasta's talking about, that isn't henpecking. The guy is already henpecked. The guy is already a beta.
I know. Yeah, but I made the similarity in terms of how the water is coming out from the ship, but you try to take the water out. I think what Lasta is saying and what the guy is doing through his advice is taking the water out from the bucket. It's not closing the hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see it a little bit differently, because I think that when you go ahead and stand up for yourself in small ways, that is the beginnings of closing up the hole. Because the implication behind the thing is, in the past, he would apologize and then go right away to go get the ketchup, or just hear her yelling, right? That was the old situation. And what he's expressing is that in the new situation, you are saying, hey, look, my bad. I'm not going to go get it right now. I can go get it the next time I go to the store, or you could go get it. So what he's doing is he's not accepting that behavior in the same way that he would have in the past. And he's giving her an option. If she feels so strongly about it, she can get it fixed. He is now expressing a boundary that he is not going to go ahead and kowtow and go get the thing.
I see. So you're basically saying that maybe he's not behaving optimally, but he's behaving better than how he used to behave.
Exactly. It is a step in the right direction is what I'm getting at. Because I'm a businessman, so I don't look for 100% optimized situations, because I recognize that there's no such thing as optimal. There's always trade-offs. Everything, there's always a trade-off. And so I need to go ahead and, as a business person, go ahead and look at various circumstances and see which one is going to be the best fit relative to the expense or relative to the consequences. And I'm very happy with an 80 or a 90% solution to a problem. I don't need to have 100% solutions, because usually that 100% solution, one, it doesn't exist. And two, if I'm wasting extra time looking for that 100% solution and it doesn't exist in the first place, that's still wasted time that I could have been accomplishing other things in my business. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Here's the diagnosis.
Cool. What do you got?
I have been having. In our previous in the earlier times of our conversation, you said calmness is not passivity, but you said calmness is not passivity, and I agree with you. But what I've seen, I've talked with many guys throughout my YouTube career, and this is a pattern that I've seen. Calmness is not passivity, yes, but I think this type of advice or this type of thing that where men trying to become better, although they are trying to become better, I think sometimes some of the advices that are given in the name of becoming a better man can turn into a rationalization, and that's how calmness can turn into a passivity. At least the guy, the thing that what guy perceives as calmness is in fact actually a passivity, but the guy thinks he's calmness. It is calmness, and he rationalizes it because he is afraid. He is afraid of what? He is afraid of his marriage is going to shatter. His marriage is going to end. And he let that fear, he leads him. And I think, which is exactly why guys like that are being disrespected in the first place. Like that's
because they're afraid.
The problem. Yes.
Okay, so you got two things that you put out there. One, you said that calmness is not necessarily passivity. I agree there. But oftentimes it turns into passivity because of how they implement it. Also agree. But I don't think that it's necessarily one-to-one. I don't think that it is a direct result. I think that it's a matter of how you implement it. So that's the first thing. I think there's nuance there. The second thing is I agree that a lot of guys aren't willing to go ahead and step up and have a spine because they're afraid of consequences. The problem is they don't realize a lot of times that they're already facing consequences for their earlier lack of a spine most of the time.
Yes.
And so if they're afraid of what they're going to lose, they're already in a compromised foundation.
Yes.
Right? And so I would say that a man is generally better off putting himself into a position where he does not need to fear.
Yes.
Right? And I think that that is better for men to operate like that so that they can have a foundation to stand up on and grow a spine. But it starts from first principles more than it starts from like individual actions.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think we're in that much disagreement. I think it's just a matter of how you execute it.
Yes, we're not. But I guess all this comes down to if you're going to do this, you have to somewhat in your heart, in your mind, in the deepest parts of your soul, accept even the tiniest of possibility that this could end up in separation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could be okay with that. And that's the doom for a lot of guys. Like that's one thing that they are deeply afraid of that happening. And that's why whatever it is that they're trying to do, it doesn't work because it's the mentality that needs to change, not the behavior.
Yeah. That's interesting because that brings up a story from about a year ago. This is the last time that my wife expressed any kind of disrespect. It was about a year ago. And we had a disagreement on her roles and responsibilities and whether or not she was to go ahead and execute them regardless of how she feels at the time. This is true, but she didn't see it that way. She got kind of emotional about it. And so she got emotional to the point where she couldn't logically process the things that were coming in. And she kind of blew up in front of the common area, in front of the children. And I'm like, look, this isn't acceptable behavior. And here's the deal. If you're going to keep acting like this, you can either go to your room, or if you don't want to accept the leadership, then at some point, we're going to go ahead and decide whether you want to go ahead and still be a part of the family. because my older two children, they know that if a divorce was going to happen, they would rather be with me than with my wife. And the way that the laws work in Texas, they're above the age of 13, so the judge would go ahead and take into account their perspective on the matter, and they don't want to separate families, so the younger two would go wherever the older two go. And so I would end up with custody of all four of my children. So I had no worries about that because I knew the position that I was in. And so I asked her, I'm like, do you want to go ahead and leave? I'll give you a key to an apartment and you can go. Because I own an apartment complex and I had an open apartment that I could go ahead and just give her a key to and she could go live there. And she said yes. And I'm like, great, let's go ahead and get you moved up. And then all of a sudden, when I called her bluff, everything changed. She shut down and she's like, wait, no, I didn't mean that. Sorry, no. Okay, I need to go. I'm gonna go to my room. And then she like stayed there for a couple hours and then she came back and she's like, look, I'm sorry. Because I was not afraid of the consequences. I knew what the consequences would be. And I gave her an option and she said yes. And I called her bluff. Because I knew that my foundation was strong enough so that I did not have anything to fear. Yeah, I'd lose some money, but I can make the money back. I'm really good at making money when I want to be, right? So like, that's not an issue. I would have my 4 kids, I would have the house, I would have everything that I need, and she would be well taken care of. But she knows that she is better off with me than without me. Yeah. So even when she was in her emotional state, she found out that when she crossed a line, that she wasn't going to be coming back unless she fixed herself.
Yes.
So like that was something I dealt with a year ago about this very topic. But the thing is, I didn't have fear. I knew where I was, and I knew that I was willing to put things on the line. And if things went south, they went south. No big deal. I would be okay, and my kids would be okay. Most men are not strong enough to be that because they don't have that situation strong in hand like that.
Yeah. Yeah. What you have done seems to be similar to what I have done. I mean, of course you didn't leave like I did, but
no, I'm not leaving. She could leave.
Yeah, but the both scenarios have similarities in the way that both of us were ready to live out the consequences.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think there's a lot to that. And I think that so many men are afraid. In fact, Martin, let's see, brought this up. How did men get so afraid of women? Was it feminization? I think yes. I think in a lot of ways, it is the feminized social order that has got men accustomed to seeing women as enemies a lot of times and got men to look at women and see them have so much institutional power, and they're afraid of the consequences of their actions. So rather than step up and act like men, they go ahead and allow themselves to be henpecked over time.
Yes.
What do you think?
I completely agree.
And so it's interesting because a lot of these women say out loud that they only want to be led when they want to be led. But if you give them choices, they will choose the guy that is more toxically masculine than the guy that's a beta.
Yeah.
And so I think in a lot of ways, toxic masculinity is just actually masculinity. It's just been pathologized by Western society in a lot of ways. And rather than just holding up masculinity to what it is, they go ahead and try to demonize it. But what's interesting is when you go ahead and put a beta-tized guy and a guy that is actually masculine, they're going to choose the masculine guy.
Yeah.
And so they say one thing, but they do another. And so that's why I always tell men, don't listen to what they say. Watch what and who they do.
That's Rollo Tomassi 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the behavior is the most important thing, not what they say. If they say something and they act completely out of concert with it, you should trust what they do, not what they say. Now, here's the thing. is that they're a mature woman and they say the thing and they do the same thing, then you could trust them at their word. But it takes time. You need to know the difference.
Yeah. There was a PUA guy in the 80s. I think his name was Ross Jeffries.
Okay.
And he was in the live television. He was saying that I don't care what she wants. I care about what she responds to. Says that my focus is a bit different on what the other guests are, because he was basically in that show many years ago. Remember him? You remember him?
Did he have the sunglasses?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay.
That guy was so based, and he basically there is saying what we are talking about right now. When the words and the behavior is in conflict, always look at the behavior, always look at what it works on the field, what gets results, what they respond to, what they say they want. You're gonna open that up, really?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We can take a look at that. Let me see if I can find a good short version of it. But you go ahead and keep saying what you're saying.
It's basically this. There's not much to say. It's very clear. But one thing that he said was very right. The less attractive a guy is, the more he has to rely on his behavior and the way that he handles situations.
All right. Yeah, I don't have a good clip, but oh, geez.
Just play any clip, man.
Okay, let's see. Here we go. Let me go ahead and pull it up. And then we got to go ahead and give attribution. Let's see. Present. Share screen. Let's go ahead and talk about share this. I need to go ahead and go back. Add it to the stage. Do proper things. There we go. All right.
Let's go.
So we're seeing
Ross,
this.
what do you think women want? The one that starts like that.
The channel is CSATHF is who's hosting this one. All right, let's go ahead and look at a little bit of this, and then we'll go ahead and comment on it.
It's 20 minutes.
A man says women say one thing but mean another. Another man teaches other men how to get women into bed. And finally, one man says men need to learn to listen to what women want, what men really think of women today. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you noticed by the shots that we're taking, but this is an audience of all women today. We have invited them here for a reason, because we have three men with different points of view. These three men think they know what women think. And today we will find out. Meet Ross Jeffries. He says he got tired of being Mr. Nice Guy and being dumped by women. So he changed his ways and he wrote a book for other men who feel the same way. It is called How to Get the Women You Desire into Bed. This is Mel Fight. Mel says women say they want a sensitive guy, but the minute ladies to slam dunk later on. But that's your prerogative, all right? Ross, what do women really want?
I don't care what they want. I only care what they respond to. See, my focus is a little bit different from your other guests. There's what women say they want, there's what women think they want, and then there's what they actually respond to. I'm not an academic, I'm not a theoretician. I'm interested in what works on the street when it's time to date and mate. And what women actually respond to is not what they say they want.
So what do they respond to?
They really respond to a guy who's a challenge, a guy who's a question mark, a guy who keeps them guessing. You see, in the beginning, the less attractive you are physically, the more you have to rely on your attitude. And that's what I wrote my book for. I wrote my book for the average-looking, even ugly guy who goes out there in the real world and tries to be a nice guy, gets his head kicked in.
So no more.
There we go.
This guy is so based.
Yeah, there we go. So that's the clip you were talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He is amazing. He is very
But I mean,
good.
but it's so true. It's don't pay attention to what they say. Pay attention to what they respond to. Very simple things. Very straightforward. Cool. What else? Did you have any other contentions for me? I think we went ahead and resolved it for the most part. It's just a matter of context. Like, I think you misunderstood the context and the level of application. And then once it was cleared up, we were in agreement.
Well, I think it's also because you are making your videos specifically for guys that has no background. That starts everything from the beginning, and for them makes sense. But for me, that has too many nuances in my head. Maybe it was too simple for me. We needed to discuss the nuances, and we did. And yes, I agree with you. That's
the trick. There's only so much that I could say in 5 minutes, right? And so in 5 minutes, I can only get so deep. I can go ahead and have 3 points, maybe a couple of sub points for the 3 points, and that's it, and just finish it out. Whereas
Yes.
a more well-articulated conversation like this, it takes more time to develop, and we can go ahead and figure things out, set definitions, and really dig into it more.
Well, your style, it seems to be that you are going step by step. In each video, you're revealing a little bit more. And I'm the kind of guy that just spits out everything at once. And yeah, that's why. But yes, I agree with you. There's one little note that I have had here.
What do you got?
Everything else. I'm going to read this to you and tell me you agree or disagree, or what content from what percentage you agree.
Sounds good. Go for it.
All right. When a man disrespects a woman, nobody will tell her to focus on the things you may have enabled him to disrespect you. It's your fault. Be better. Everyone will tell her that he is wrong, period. So if we can't say the same thing when the person who is being disrespected is a man, then we really need to start considering the gynocentric conditioning behind this dynamic.
Yeah, I agree that generally speaking, we need to go ahead and address gynocentrism and make it so that recognize that there are different rules between men and women, and to decide which rules apply to which men and which rules apply to which women, and which rules are equally applicable to both. Because we know, being Christians, that there are different rules for men and women. There are some rules that are universal for everybody, but there are some rules that are more applicable to men and more rules that are applicable to women. So I'll give you a good example of something like this. So the greatest masculine virtue is valor. And we know this because the opposite of valor is cowardice. Men, if you go ahead and act in a cowardly fashion, and the whole society does that, the society collapses.
Yeah.
If you have women that are cowards, nothing wrong happens to society. Right?
Yes.
Now, on the flip side, for women, their primary virtue that is associated with women, generally speaking, is chastity. If women go ahead and act in a promiscuous manner and they proliferate promiscuity to the point where there is no accountability, no responsibility, society collapses.
Yeah.
If men do that, it's not the same.
A lot of people will not like this comment.
I'm okay with that. They can disagree with me, but I'll go ahead and take them to task on it. Because here's the thing. We understand that there's a fundamental difference between men and women. And we can go ahead and use the illustration of a lock and key to demonstrate this. So a key that can open any lock is a master key. A lock that opens for any key is a shitty lock.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God, yes.
There it is. I'm not afraid to say that. It is true. We understand that, generally speaking, men are gatekeepers of commitment and relationship, and women are, generally speaking, gatekeepers of sexual access. Now, this is less the case in modern times, where average guys are not the gatekeepers of commitment.
Anything.
Because average guys are not the ones that are in demand. The guys that are the gatekeepers of commitment are the guys at the upper crust, the top 20% of guys and the top 4% of guys, respectively, because those are the guys that the women want. And the women are willing to submit themselves and subject themselves to the demands of those men to get their commitment. Whereas they don't want to submit to an average man, they want to submit to a superior man.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So are we in agreement there?
We are, Mike.
Right? So
We are in agreement.
Yes, we have different rules for men and women. That's just a fact of life. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah. And it isn't that we're trying to go ahead and hate on women. It's just that we recognize.
Your voice is gone again. Nope. Nope.
There we go. Okay.
Yes. Why
So
does
there's-
this keep happening?
I don't know. There's some connection between my microphone. I need to go ahead and readdress because every now and then my microphone will disconnect from. I think I need to work on whatever USB connection. I have a hub that like my camera and my USB and my extra monitor all go into to feed into my stream setup. So
Yeah.
that's something I probably just have to address. It's just happens once every 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's important that we recognize that reality should be our guide. And we shouldn't just go ahead and look and imagine the way that things should be. We should also look at the way that things are so that we can be informed by the process. Because otherwise
Well,
we're
I
just
guess-
wishing for things.
Yeah. I guess as everything, even with this, there has to be a balance, right?
Yeah.
The balance between how the things ought to be and how the things are, because focusing and fixating on one thing could result as forgetting the other, and forgetting the other is not really good, right?
Sure. And I think that's a good way to operate, generally speaking. But when we're having conversations like this, we can separate the descriptive from the prescriptive, and we can take time and discuss descriptive reality, and then shift gears and then talk about what should be the case. And we can do that when we have the time to have an honest and frank discussion with one another.
Yeah.
And I think that for the most part, in real life, we don't have a lot of the vocabulary to do that with one another on a consistent basis because our society has, generally speaking, a relatively short attention span. And a lot of people are too cowardly to go talk to people man on man or woman on woman and be frank about what their disagreements are.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas the two of us, we can operate as gentlemen and disagree without being disagreeable.
Yes.
Right? And we can go ahead and passionately support our ideas and still be friends afterwards.
Yes, we can. There was a study, have you seen it, about women's political ideas and how men are more tolerating their political adversaries than women their political allies. Have you seen that?
I have. That I think that's hilarious. But I mean, it tells us that there are so many fundamental differences between men and women.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And then there was a study recently in Denmark where they went ahead and looked at childbearing and having children and relating to income increases. And they saw that whenever you had a 5% increase in a man's income, the chances of him having more children increased substantially. And that if you did the same thing for women, the chances of her having more children declined. And in fact, she would have less children as a result of it.
Yeah. That would make sense, of course, because for her to be able to make more money, she can't continue to focus on being a wife and a mother, right?
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because it goes ahead and speaks to fundamental like orientation of men and women. Like generally speaking, when a man earns more money and gets to a certain point where he can support himself and more than support himself, the natural inclination of man is to want to have a family and children.
Yes.
Right? He earns more to support other people. However, it is the opposite is the case for women. Oftentimes it is found that the more a woman makes, it is not about supporting other people. It's about achieving independence for herself. It is self-centered in nature rather than other-centered.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I completely agree with you. It's solipsism 101.
Cool. Awesome. So do you have any more disagreement with me, or are we good?
I think we are very much good, Mike. I guess my main worry about everything that we have discussed, or about the advice that is given by the likes of Lasta and Noland and those kinds of advice, what I am worried about them oftentimes that I am seeing that those advices have the great possibility of turning into a passive acceptance, passivity, and tolerance. and basically enabling the very core problem that why all the disrespect happens in the first place. And these were what I wanted to discuss, and we did, and I am satisfied with the answers you gave me. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's important that we recognize that passivity is often a very important piece of the puzzle to recognize, because I would say that that's the first sin of Adam, is that he was passive in the garden, right? Is if we look at the garden, Eve and Adam were with each other when Eve took a bite of the fruit and then gave it to Adam. It wasn't as if Eve did the thing and then ran to Adam and gave him the fruit. He was right there with her.
Yeah.
So if he was leading his wife, he would have slapped that fruit out of her hand and be like, hey, no, God said this is the rule. You're not going to do that.
Yes.
It's the same thing as cutting up the credit card.
Even if she ate, he didn't have to eat it back.
You're right. He didn't have to.
Yeah,
and I think that would
probably
be interesting.
We wouldn't have been cursed.
Sure. Or he'd have gotten another wife.
Yes. And then we wouldn't have been cursed by our wives desiring to control us for eternity.
Right. But the thing is, I think that it was bound to happen at some point anyway, that at some point the tempter would get us. And so we could go ahead and say, oh, yeah, it would have been this way. But we just don't know for a fact that that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to express?
Well, you convinced me more than I thought you would. Before coming into this stream, I was thinking in my head, I'm going to get him at this. And then we started discussing, and then I was like, oh, man, he's right.
Well, I thought this stuff through, right? It's like I put it through its tests. Like I think about these things before I say them for the most part.
Yeah.
Where can they find you? If people want to go ahead and get to know more about you, Zafer, how would they find you?
Well, guys, most of my content is Turkish. But sometimes
on YouTube.
I comment on English. On YouTube, yes, I have a YouTube channel. But YouTube has a beautiful feature now that dubs stuff. But watching a dub video is not really fun, so I'm not sure if you would enjoy that.
You also put content on X, right?
Yes, I have 2 X accounts. One of them is my Turkish account where I mainly post in Turkish, and I have another English account which is called Rage Reads.
Okay, so you're public about that. I only shared your regular one in the chat or in the description.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable with it, I'm going to put the link to your Rage Read.
I'm thinking about changing the concept anyway. The whole name Rage Read, I think it will go.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and put that, and then I'll put a link to your other one.
Yes, I'm trying to find something else.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure that if people like what you have to say, that they can go ahead and find you, because that's the gentlemanly thing to do. So there's that. And then here's your other account. That way, if they like what you have to say, they can go find more of you.
Yes, guys, if you liked what I have said.
Awesome. So I think that in a lot of ways that there was some misunderstanding about what was said and what the context under which these things were said. Is that a fair assessment?
It is.
And that a lot of things are hard to explain in a succinct manner in a short video. That if we're going to discuss it at length, it takes a long time for us to go ahead and get to the root of different things. And we talked about a lot of things today.
We did.
Yeah.
Before we start this live, you said, I know we're going to have a great conversation. And we are. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on. And I'll go ahead and definitely share this link to you for you to go ahead and show to your audience. And then you can cut it up however you want, and we can go ahead and do what we need to do.
Okay. I don't really deal with cutting stuff up. I guess I'm just going to share it the way that it is.
No, you're good. All right. So let's see. We had a final comment by Martin. Was great. God bless it. Hey, thanks so much for enjoying. I appreciate your participation in this, and I appreciate everybody else that's viewing on this. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. the important part that I want to get across is that if you want to demand respect, it's important to be respectable first. And a lot of times it involves doing the work, and the work is hard, but the work has positive consequences associated with it. And I think that if men band together as brothers, that we are more likely to accomplish great things together. Because when we have disagreements like this, we can talk to each other and come to a greater understanding, and for us to go ahead and come together as men to defeat the enemies of the world. Thanks for what you guys do. The forge is ready. Let's get to work.